All right, welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton. Uh, you know, I've got 4 movies in the bag this weekend. Got to see 3 in theaters, which I always love getting to do. I don't know. Maybe this did kick off summer. Maybe. I mean, almost $100 million for this movie, Michael. That's right. It's the you're tempted to say highly anticipated, and I guess it was highly anticipated. It made over $200 million worldwide, so uh, you know that would imply that there were a lot of people anticipating and looking forward to seeing Michael Jackson biopic. You could say much discussed biopic for Michael Jackson. Certainly that qualifies. I don't think you could say the much ballyhooed biopic on Michael Jackson because the reviews have been less than kind so far. Uh I would say the ubiquitous Michael Jackson biopic, because clearly there's an audience, and it's I mean, you don't need to take a poll or anything like that to realize that, yeah, there's a big audience out there of people, from my age, at my age and maybe 20 years younger than me, a big window of people who have very, well, maybe not 20, 15, very, very positive, very uh loving memories of Michael Jackson. And in spite of the controversial nature that is Michael Jackson. Um and originally this movie was intending to deal with the controversy. However, um due to legal reasons associated with some of his problems, they had to cut like the last hour of this movie, and so they basically had to craft together a third act. Um, and so that's what Antoine Fuqua did. Antoine Fuqua is the director for this. Look, Antoine Fuqua, director of 3 awesome the Equalizer movies, just fantastic movies featuring Denzel Washington. Director of Training Day, a movie that got Denzel Washington a Best Actor uh, Oscar. Fantastic A++ movie. So Antoine Fuqua knows what he's doing. I think what we're dealing with here is the genre, though, and so the genre of the musical biopic last few years, last year we had the Deliver Me from Nowhere, which is, was this Bruce Springsteen biopic focusing on the making of the album Nebraska. And then before that you had the Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothy Chalamet. And there's just more and more and more, and on and on and on and on. And I have said on this platform, if you're going to do a biopic, what I care about, what interests me is focus. Focus on an event. Limit your focus and touch upon some of the outstanding things that build the character, but focus on the event. And this movie definitely does not do that. It also doesn't have an ending. So it does both. It doesn't focus on an event, and it also is like, okay, well, we're only going to tell half of the story. And I'm not even speaking, legally. I mean, the end of the movie, they say his story will continue. And so we pick up in the first act with a young Michael Jackson, and the being played by Jafar Jackson, Michael Jackson's nephew, son of Jermaine. And his mother, Katherine Jackson, played by Nia Long, and his infamous father, Joe Jackson, played by Coleman Domingo. And it just jumps right into Joe Jackson's kind of like not a good person. But he has this idea about taking advantage of his talented sons, particularly Michael, to build a boy band that will get him and his family out of Gary, Indiana. And the idea of family is super huge for Joe Jackson, and he implants that in his entire family. And the first act, and it's a long first act, is the Jackson 5. And I mean, there's just so much to it. And yeah, Joe Jackson uses his belt on his kids. And yeah, Joe Jackson is exploiting the kids and taking credit for, discovering and building the band, when his kids are the ones that are actually the ones with talent and being put out there. And this movie plays like a greatest hits album, is what this movie plays like. But only, instead of, oh, well, you've broken apart these albums and cobbled them together into another separate single album, you've broken apart somebody's life, and without context and without the ability to really reflect on and dive into anything deep and meaningful, presented these one-liner intrigues interspersed with really, really, really amazing songs, with giant gaps, and just things, important things that have nothing to do with controversy, just totally mentioned and glossed over. And it's baffling. It is utterly baffling. Michael Jackson starts out in Motown, and then all of a sudden he's with CBS, and they just kind of mention in passing, oh yeah, Jermaine stayed with Motown, but the rest of us are doing good over in Epic. And it's like, well, wait a second, that kind of feels like a big deal. Not a big deal. Michael Jackson gets his chimpanzee Bubbles, and it's like, oh, I remember Bubbles, but then he's gone. And it's like, okay, well, we don't really need to remember Bubbles all that much. Michael Jackson makes an amazing album, solo album, Off the Wall, and it starts working with Quincy Jones. And we only need to see about 5 minutes of that. We're good. We can move away from Off the Wall. And Michael Jackson makes the top selling album of all time, Thriller. And don't worry about it. Yes, he did it, but let's focus on the Victory Tour, and let's focus. It's the things that they choose to focus on are by far and away the least interesting things that are actually going on. I mean, you learn nothing about Michael Jackson's process other than while he's walking around, he's humming snippets of songs to himself and working them out in his head. And that's how it works. And that's all you get. You get less than 2 minutes of Michael Jackson working with Quincy Jones in the studio. I don't know how you do that. Okay, story. Okay, the importance of Michael Jackson in my life. Let's just take a break for a moment from the movie review and establish that the first ever album I bought on a tape. So I'm in kindergarten. I come down to Florida for Christmas. I am given a tape deck radio for Christmas. Now I can play tapes. I don't have to buy records. I can play tapes. I go to the store and I buy the Thriller album because I'm just really obsessed with it. I'm Motown 25th anniversary has happened, which they touch upon, which is great. I'm glad they touch upon it. But I mean, given an implication of just how fucking huge it was that Michael Jackson goes out and does the moonwalk. And that's the first time we see the moonwalk, and it's an hour and 10 minutes into the movie. And it's, what are we doing? Anyway, but whatever. Like, I have a poster of Michael Jackson. I'm like, well, I love Michael Jackson. Okay. It's the first tape I ever bought. and that's a big deal. Ignore the fact that the next 3 tapes I buy are all Weird Al Yankovic, but the second yes, absolutely, the second album I buy is Weird Al Yankovic's in 3D, and then the next one I buy is the first Weird Al album, Weird Al Yankovic, and look, that's just the way it is. I distinctly remember running home from school with my brother to make sure we did not miss the premiere of the Thriller video on MTV. And yeah, they touch upon how important Michael Jackson was to MTV. And the only thing I learned was it was actually not super easy for Michael Jackson to take over MTV, which he did, because MTV was hesitant to play black artists. And I didn't realize that, looking back, okay, I get it, but I didn't realize that. But once they started playing and stuff, I mean, it was just, it was, my first memory of 60 Minutes is, there was Michael Jackson was covered on 60 Minutes, like that was like, okay, yeah, I'm in, let's do this. 60 Minutes, clock ticking, I'm down. So fast forward 2 seconds of the Thriller video, and it's like, God, what are we doing? What are we fucking doing? No mention of Michael Jackson relationship with Diana Ross and being in The Wiz. Not even glossed over. Not even mentioned in passing. No mention of Michael Jackson's relationship with Paul McCartney and purchasing the Beatles. Like any one of these things you could make an entire movie on and it'd be more interesting than what we were given. That being said, yeah, I fucking love this, hearing the songs and watching somebody pretend to be Michael Jackson and dance. Here on Real to Real Talk, instead of doing stars, we do tacos. If we feel like something deserves a little more, we will add a little extra guacamole instead of doing a half a taco like you would do with a half a star. Why? Because nobody eats half a fucking taco. This gets 2 tacos, and I'm being super fucking generous. And I'm only giving it 2 tacos instead of 1 taco plus guac because it really doesn't deserve guac on it. These are really bad tacos. This is not a good movie. Antoine Fuqua can absolutely do better. I look forward to his next movie that's not a Michael Jackson biopic. Next up, Mother Mary. Anne Hathaway stars with somebody that we saw just last week in the movie Christopher's, with Michaela Cole, and directed by David Lowery, who has an interesting filmography. So he directed The Green Knight, which was a pandemic release that I really, really enjoyed. He directed the updated Pete's Dragon, which was interesting. He directed Peter and Wendy, which was the sort of redoing of Peter Pan, which was okay. So interesting, like not and so we get this movie starring Anne Hathaway and Michaela Cole, which is Anne Hathaway plays a Lady Gaga-esque pop star, goes by the name of performing name of Mother Mary, and Michaela Cole plays Sam, her former friend, as childhood friend, and original stylist for Mother Mary, and they have a falling out, but Mother Mary's sort of at a crossroads in her career, and she goes back to Sam because she needs Sam to make her a dress for this sort of coming out performance of a new song that she's written, and she's been off the scene, and an accident of some kind is alluded to, an accident that was captured on film, or not film, but captured and placed up on social medias, and everybody, did you see the video? Everybody saw the video. And so something happened, an accident of some kind. She's coming back from that accident. She needs a dress. Her current stylists just aren't getting it right. She needs to come out no red. That's the only rule. Otherwise, do what you want. Okay. And then it becomes a two-hander. A two-hander of exploring fame, how somebody gets famous, how people's relationships are affected by somebody getting famous. What are the forces behind larger creative forces that build up that creative forces that impact the amount of fame that those creative forces gain? And just a relationship that has ceased to be, is so broken that it does not exist anymore, and yet was so strong and so vibrant and so successful and so deep that it is impossible to die. The first hour of this movie is absolutely captivating. It's one of the best two-fisters that I can remember seeing. I loved the Christophers last week. The first hour of this movie blows the entirety of the Christophers away. It's just so good. And then we get to what's really bothering Mother Mary, and Sam confesses to seeing a ghost, and Mother Mary confesses to having seen the exact same ghost. And so it takes a supernatural turn, which is very much like, if you've seen The Green Knight, the Green Knight in the third act takes a supernatural turn, and this 100% follows that tact. And I went along for the ride, and I loved the ride for so long that I really and I really liked the ending, that I was disappointed with the ending because I didn't love it. And I am 100% meeting this movie on its terms. I would recommend this movie to anybody. I cannot wait to watch this movie with people and get their reactions to it. The two lead performances are so ridiculously good. The songs being sung by Anne Hathaway are so fantastic, and the story, the direction, the filmmaking throughout is top notch. I just could not 100% get behind the storytelling in the second half of the second act, and basically all of the third act. And not that I didn't like it. I liked it. I thought it was very good, but I didn't love it. And so that's why before I give this rating, everybody has to see. This is a movie that I feel like lots and lots of people have to see, because otherwise it's just gonna like vanish from the ether. And I hope it gets strong. Obviously it made like less than $2 million this weekend, and fuck, go see this movie. It's 4 tacos plus guac. Just yes, this is like, so last week Christopher's quintessential 4 taco movie. This is I love that first opening. So this would have been 5 tacos plus guac if it had maintained the strength of the opening. Fuze. All right, Fuze is a British it's a British heist movie starring Aaron Taylor Johnson as a somebody who serves in the British Army who defuses bombs, um, and a whole bunch of other folks that Gugum Raw, who was in a Game of Thrones. She shows up and is in this as a police officer, and Sam Worthington shows up and is in this, and is one of the people conducting a heist, and along with Theo James and two other guys who you probably wouldn't have heard of, but so let's talk. Directed by David Mackenzie, director of Hell or High Water, just an all-time A plus heist movie, just one of the best heist movies ever made. Like, period. Like, in the conversation with Heat, in the conversation with Ocean's 11, in the conversation with any movie you want to talk about that's a heist movie that is fantastic. Hell or High Water's in that conversation. So the guy knows how to make a heist movie. Also, I go into a heist movie and I'm just at 3 tacos, and you just do the bare minimum to go up from there, and you really have to shit the bed to go down. Like, you just have to be terrible to go down. So establishing where we are with this. All right. The concept of this movie is pretty interesting. So there's a construction site in Westminster, in London, not Westminster Abbey, but the town. And they discover a World War II ordnance unexploded, and are forced to evacuate, several city blocks in order to deal with this ordnance. Meanwhile, in one of the buildings in the evacuation zone, there are 4 guys who are robbing the safety deposit boxes of a bank. Okay. Worthington, 2 guys you never heard of, and another guy who you may have heard of. You'd have to go look up his movies. I'm not going to dive into that. All right. And Aaron Taylor Johnson has been called in as to defuse the World War II ordnance, because nobody in the police bomb squad knows how to defuse World War II era ordinances. So it's got to be Aaron Taylor Johnson. And so, it becomes like a beat the clock thing where the people conducting the heist have to beat the explosion of the ordnance, or the diffusion of the ordnance, all the while evading the sort of patrols that go around making sure that everything's been evacuated. You spot very early who's going to be betraying who. You spot very early the movie does not, I don't even know that it tries hard to hide sort of the twist and who's really plotting what with whom. I don't know that it tries hard, because I picked up on it pretty quickly, and I'm not going to hold that against it. That's okay. What I am going to hold against it, in a heist movie, you have to realize there are people committing a crime. Okay. And in order to get behind people who are committing a crime, you have to accept that on some level their crime is okay. Ocean's 11. The villain can't be the guys committing the crime. Okay. And one of the guys committing the crime, who is, as I mentioned, clearly early on going to be betraying the other people committing the heist. Usually, if you're betraying the people that are on your team, you're a shitbag, and you don't deserve to live. And if you live, that's a problem with the heist movie. And the people being don't like rob from people. Like don't rob from regular people. Rob from a bank, rob from a casino owner, rob from uh never like beat up the bank customers. Not that there were any bank customers to beat up, but they're robbing from safety deposit boxes. So like that might as well be stealing direct wallets directly from people at the site. And it's tough. It's tough. It's like I can't really get behind these heist folks. And so therefore, much like in Heat, maybe you don't deserve to get away with it. Like at some point there, and and I just am not convinced enough by where this movie lands that it's like, okay, well, yeah, that totally makes sense. But it was super fun. It wasn't. It's not like that it wasn't fun. It's just that I didn't particularly enjoy where it went. It's getting 3 tacos. Like it never got above the 3 taco bare minimum for me. Last movie I saw was a streamer on Netflix. It's a Charlize Theron and Taron Egerton, not to be confused with Sam Worthington, who I mentioned already. Charlize Theron and Taron Egerton, and basically a two-hander. From the guy Baltasar Kormacher, who directed. I just want to point out that the people who were directing movies this weekend have directed really good movies. This guy directed Beast, which is okay, but the one that he directed that I really, really like, where was it? Okay, maybe I don't really, really like it, but it's good. Is Two Guns and also Everest. Those are 2 movies that are like, yeah, you know what? Those are 2 movies that I really like. And anyway, the point being, Apex. So Charlize Theron is a adrenaline junkie who winds up, going to on a solo white water rafting trip in the outback. Not the outback, but in Australia. And Taron Egerton is a local in that area who appears to trying to be helping her, but it ends up being dangerous game, the most dangerous game. That's what this movie is. It's just the most dangerous game, and where Charlize Theron needs to survive against a serial killer. And if that sounds like your cup of tea, watch it because it's well done. And if it's not your cup of tea, don't watch it because it's exactly what it is. And it's a 3 taco. It's just so if somebody said to me, hey, what would we could put on Apex or we could put on Fuze, which one do you want to put on? I'd just be like, hey, I'm happy with either one of those, and you pick whichever you want to see more. Like there's one movie over the other is impossible. Like if they said, no, you have to decide, I would like, okay, I'm going to try to ask you a bunch of questions and figure out which one of these you're going to like more based on the questions I ask, because I really genuinely don't care. So yeah, perfect tie. This is a 1-1 draw, and and that's perfectly fine. This is real talk. I am your host, Paul Britton. Next week, I will be doing a movie review of The Devil Wears Prada 2, and maybe some other stuff. I don't know, because I don't know what's going to be coming to theaters. But I will definitely be there for Devil Wears Prada 2. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Go see Mother Mary.